Hi, beautiful people. My name is Fumilayo Azoro Ekeze, founder of Tender Thoughts Connect. My intention in this space is to partner with parents, guardians, educators, and the community at large in ensuring that the child develops into a successful adult to the benefit of the society. Once again, welcome to my world. Today's episode, we shall be focusing on factors that may impede a child's learning performance. Most times, parents and even teachers alike are always frustrated when at the end of an academic season or academic session, a child does not do well, or even during the process of teaching and learning, a child does not meet up to their expectations. But we fail to understand that there might be some underlying factors that may be affecting the child. So on this episode, I'll be sharing some facts and even my personal views concerning this particular issue. At this point, I'll encourage you to please click on the like button, share with family and friends, and also subscribe. Now, to the issue on ground. What should we consider when children or learners are not doing well academically? First and foremost, we'll look at situations that we can handle, that is within us. Now, how do we see the family life of that child? Many times, children who are suffering from parental conflicts or are living in a home that is not conducive enough tend not to do well academically. The child may be doing well and all of a sudden he or she drops in his or her performance. What we should look at is, how is the home like? Especially when parents are always at each other's neck, or when they are on the verge of separation or even divorce. Situations like this can affect a learner. Don't you think so? Another thing we have to consider also within the family unit is domestic violence. Is the child suffering abuse? You may not know, but then as a teacher, an educator, most importantly as a parent, you must look into that aspect. How do you go about it? It's a very simple thing, by creating time to discuss with the child and find out what the child is going through. In this situation, you must understand the child's mood. Is the child always moody? Is the child always in isolation? So these are things that we need to watch out for before we conclude that such a child is dull or such a child does not want to go to school. Remember, nobody was born dumb. Another thing we have to consider is if the child has other siblings. The issue of favoritism comes to mind. Do we always favor one child against the other? Or are we involved in comparison? This is not even just the parents alone. Even in schools, do we as teachers always compare learner A to learner B? Remember, every child learns at his or her own pace, and every child has his strengths or weakness. So we have to consider these factors. Another factor we need to look into is our care and love for the children. How often do we praise these children? How often do we ask them about their feelings? So these are the factors that has to do with the family. Then we also look at the issue of the school. Does that child really want to be in that school? I get to hear of parents who enroll the child more in about 3 or 4 schools within 2 academic sessions. Your problem is that they're not teaching your child very well. Are you sure that is the real issue? We just move our children from one school to another, sometimes because of our social standing. We want to compete with other parents. We must understand that all these things have their roles they play in a child's life. So we must also consider the school community. We should also consider the curriculum that is being used by the school. And not to forget, is the child in the appropriate class for his age or for his capacity? So many children tend to skip classes. At the end of it all, they find it difficult later in life. So remember, we are still talking about factors we need to consider as factors that militate in a child's learning performance. Now we've talked about the family issues that can affect a child's learning performance. Now let's look at the other aspects. Now, have you thought about learning disorders? Do you realize that these disorders can even affect a child from performing well in his or her academics? Yes, long before we acted out of ignorance. But thank God for researches. Thank God for what is coming out in the education sector. There are several disorders that may affect a child. Some of these disorders can come about during childbirth. We call them birth defects. Some could be from the environment. Some could be from the eating habits. We have so many disorders that I would like to mention, though I'm not a specialist, but at least I can help you. Remember, I said that I am in the business of helping to ensure that the child enjoys his childhood experience. We're looking at now the social and cognitive development of learners. Now, what are these disorders? I remember many years ago, as a teacher, I had an encounter with a student. Each time in the class I asked the students to read, the child seems to want to cry or sometimes even burst into tears while the teaching and learning process is ongoing. And I was also disturbed. And I realized that even the child's past performance was nothing to write home about. So what did I do? I decided to make the learner my friend. For those of you who think that as an adult or as a teacher, you can't make your learners your friend, too bad. It's one of my secrets. So as I was saying, I made her my friend, brought her into my world. I got to know her much better before I even popped the question, why couldn't she read in the class? Was it a case of shyness or what? Or was she being bullied? And at the end of it all, she burst into tears and made me to understand that she could not just read anything. Wow. And all the time, she's been labeled as a dull student. So as time went on, we're able to overcome that challenge. Yes, we're able to surmount it. So what am I talking about? There are disorders such as dyslexia. In simple form, reading disorder. The inability of an individual to read words. We also have what we call dysgraphia. The inability to convert one's thoughts into a written language. Now, what about dyscalculia? Most people don't know about this. When a child is unable to understand mathematical concepts, the child has difficulty in anything that has to do with numbers. And you find that a child has a delay in counting, and then you're disturbed. And you label the child different names. Dull, dumb, good for nothing. Sometimes as loving parents as we are, we engage them in extra lessons. Still, we don't get the results that is needed. At this point, I would encourage us as parents to consult the teachers. Don't just pick your child's results and put it in the file or in your drawers or the email. Leave it in your mail as usual. Whatever you notice that has been persistent, consistent concerning your child's performance, then it's time to see the teacher. And even you as a teacher, when you notice such a thing like this, it's high time you put a call through to the parents. We have parent-teachers conference. That is the objective of parent-teachers conference. And sometimes you don't have to wait until the particular day for such a conference before you put a call across to the parents or the teachers, as the case may be. This will go a long way to settle matters as this. And even when we consult the teachers or the parents, we don't stop there. We can also visit the specialist. I trust my people. We believe so much in prayers. Yes, there's nothing prayers cannot do. but there's what we call what works. We should visit specialists. There are pediatric neuropsychologists that handle matters as this. It doesn't mean that it is the end of the road for the child. They will carry out diagnosis and find out exactly what the problem is with the child. You can't just give up like that. And that is why when we are making choices, especially disciplines, career choices for our children, we have to be very careful. That's a discussion for another day. So, I have talked about some factors that we need to consider with regards to our children or learners' performance. I know for most teachers, the child's failure is automatically your failure. And so you have to do everything to protect your image. So when a child is not doing well, don't wait for the time when the child is going to sit for an external exam or for the termly exams before you begin to look for a solution. The moment a child crosses your path as a learner, the moment you come in contact with one another, that is the moment you must grab to set the tone for success for the child. You do your best and leave the rest. If this has brought value to your life as a parent, guardian, or caregiver, or even as an educator, I will encourage you once again to please like this video, share to family and friends who may find this worthwhile, and also do what? Subscribe if you haven't done that. So right now we've come to the end of today's episode, and I am your regular hostess, Fumilayo Azoro Ekizie. Be inspired.